Welcome to AI News in 10, your top AI and tech news podcast in about 10 minutes. AI tech is amazing and is changing the world fast. For example, this entire podcast is curated and generated by AI using my and my kids' cloned voices. It's Thursday, January 22, 2026. Here's what's shaping AI and tech today. South Korea flips the switch on a first-of-its-kind national AI law. Adobe turns your PDFs into auto-generated podcasts and decks. Sony hands majority control of its Bravia TV business to TCL. UK lawmakers urge regulators to stop the wait and see on AI risk in finance. And Micron gets a fresh Wall Street endorsement as the memory supercycle rolls on, fueled by AI's appetite for HBM. Let's jump in, but first, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Need elite developers fast? Elite Coders connects you with rigorously vetted senior engineers in 24 to 48 hours. Staff augmentation, dedicated teams, or full project delivery, we've got you covered. Visit elitecoders.co to get started today.
Now, let's dive into today's stories. We'll start in Seoul. South Korea's AI Basic Act takes effect today, making the country the first to enforce a comprehensive horizontal AI framework. The law establishes a national AI committee, requires a 3-year implementation plan, and gives authorities tools to investigate and find misuse, such as deepfakes and AI-driven misinformation, while also funding innovation and standards work. The government's pitch is trust plus growth, marrying safety requirements with support for startups and research. If you track compliance, this is the new baseline in Asia. Expect disclosure duties for certain systems, transparency norms, and human oversight provisions to ripple through procurement and private deployments. The Science Ministry confirmed the effective date this morning, and legal analysts note the statute was enacted last January with a 1-year runway to today. A few practical notes for teams operating in Korea. Watch definitions like AI system and the categories that drive obligations. The Act sets up governance that can designate high-impact use cases with elevated duties. Sub-laws and guidance will tune thresholds and documentation expectations, and observers expect enforcement to ramp across 2026 as the committee and safety bodies stand up. For multinationals, several firms are already aligning model documentation and incident reporting with Korea's rules and the EU AI Act timeline to avoid parallel bespoke processes. Next up, Adobe just made Acrobat a lot more talkative. New generative AI features rolling out across Acrobat and Acrobat Studio can generate editable slide decks from a bundle of documents and, here's the flashy bit, spin up an audio podcast that summarizes your files. You can also ask the AI assistant to make in-document edits via natural language prompts, add an e-signature field, remove pages, or rewrite a paragraph without hunting through menus. Adobe says the presentation flow drafts an outline first, then builds slides you can style in Express, and the podcast defaults to a 2-host conversation that walks through the highlights with citations back to the source material. Think Notebook LM style audio, but native to your PDFs and spaces. Why it matters. Productivity suites are racing to turn long documents into short, shareable formats. Slides, posts, and audio. The adoption trick will be controls. Teams will want guardrails around what sources the assistant can touch, how citations are inserted, and a clear audit trail for content that leaves your perimeter. Adobe's move puts pressure on incumbents across Office, note-taking, and knowledge-based tools to meet users where they already store the work, inside PDFs. Story 3, an industry shakeup in living room tech. Sony is handing majority control, 51%, of its Bravia TV and home audio business to TCL via a joint venture, with Sony retaining 49%. Branding stays Sony and Bravia, but manufacturing scale, panels, and supply chain lean heavily on TCL. The companies aim to close and begin JV operations by 2027, pending approvals. For consumers, the near term is steady, but in the medium term, expect TCL's vertical integration to bring more aggressive price performance into higher tiers, while Sony's image processing and audio tech keep the premium halo alive. Strategically, it's Sony tilting further toward content imaging and PlayStation, while offloading the heavy lift of commodity hardware margins. Before we continue, here's a quick message from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Family GPT, the AI chat platform actually designed for kids. If your children are curious about ChatGPT, but you're worried about what they might see, Family GPT gives you full parental controls, content filtering, and the ability to align responses with your family's values, whether Christian, Muslim, Jewish, secular, and many more. Monitor every conversation, set usage limits, and let your kids explore AI safely. No ads, no data selling, complete privacy. Sign up free at familygpt.chat. That's FAMILYGPT.chat.
All right, let's get back to it. Fourth, a regulatory drumbeat from London. The UK Parliament's Treasury Committee says financial regulators risk exposing consumers and markets to serious harm by moving too slowly on AI. The report urges the Bank of England and the Financial Conduct Authority to run AI-specific stress tests and set clearer accountability for model-driven decisions in credit, insurance claims, and fraud detection. One concern: highly synchronized models can push institutions to react the same way at once, amplifying shocks. Regulators welcomed the recommendations and promised responses, but the message to banks and insurers was blunt. Don't wait for bespoke rules. Map risks, document human oversight, and test your models now. It's a timely nudge given the broader European cadence. The EU's AI Act ramps through 2026, and firms operating across jurisdictions are consolidating model inventories, monitoring emergent bias, and tightening vendor controls. Whether you're in risk, compliance, or product, the homework is the same. Validate model behavior under stress, explain adverse decisions, and prove there's a human in the loop where required. And fifth, the AI memory boom keeps minting winners. Micron picked up a fresh outperform initiation today from William Blair, with a note arguing the HBM supercycle, those tall memory stacks feeding AI accelerators, has years to run. The analyst projects HBM revenue growth of roughly 164% in Micron's fiscal 2026, then another 40% in 2027, as tight supply and relentless AI demand drive pricing and mix. In plain English, more training and inference means more high-bandwidth memory per GPU, and even non-AI PCs inherit pricier DRAM as capacity shifts to HBM. Investors have pushed Micron's market cap sharply higher over the past year. The new call suggests the runway is still long if supply remains constrained into 2027. A quick connective thread to close. Today's stories show the AI economy cycling on three gears: rules, tools, and fuel. Rules: Korea's AI Basic Act, and the UK's warning signal how fast norms are locking in, especially around safety, documentation, and oversight. Tools: Adobe's Make Me a Deck and a Podcast Push is the latest proof that generative features are becoming table stakes inside everyday apps. Fuel: Micron's HBM surge reminds us that underneath it all is silicon and supply, compute and memory that still can't be built fast enough. That's the download. South Korea's landmark AI law is live. Adobe turned PDFs into podcasts. Sony's teaming with TCL on Bravia. UK MPs want tougher AI risk testing in finance. And Micron's riding the HBM wave with fresh Wall Street conviction. See you tomorrow with more AI news in 10. Thanks for listening, and a quick disclaimer: this podcast was generated and curated by AI using my and my kids' cloned voices. If you want to know how I do it or want to do something similar, reach out to me at emaid@ainewsin10.com. That's AInewsin10.com. See you all tomorrow.